All right, Acts. Okay, so before I get started, my wife and I were talking this morning. I told her I was going to share this. My wife and I were talking this morning on I gave her a quick call because I wear glasses. They're all scratched up because my dog's eaten them a couple times. And so I've got this like glasses cleaner cloth that's in the basket that where my car keys are. Thanks. And was it yesterday that I was asking for it? I'm like, the glass cleaner thing's gone again. I'm like, do you have any idea where it is? She's like, no, why would I know where it is? I'm like, I don't know, it's not in the key basket. Who would move the stupid glass cleaner thing? Just put it back where it is. So I went and grabbed my keys this morning to go to church, and there it is in the key basket. I'm like, all right, somebody felt guilty. Right? So I very nicely called my wife and was like, hey, where'd that come from? And she's like, it was to the left of the key basket. And I'm like, well, that's on the other side, and that's not where it goes. It goes there. Why would I look to the left if it's not where it is? I mean, so you understand this. This is a way. I don't know if it's all men. It's all men. Okay, I didn't want to make a complete generalization, but if it's not in where it's supposed to be, if the glasses cleaner is not in the key basket, it's just a Gentile thing. It's a non-placed. It's non-Jew. Like it's not. It could be in Asia. It's not where it's supposed to be, so there's no point in looking anywhere else because it could be anywhere now. There are places for things. And so Carrie, my lovely wife, and this is why it's important, said, you know what? That's exactly why God had women come to the tomb first. You know what would have happened? Peter and John would have been like, and then not where he's supposed to be. All right, so I thought that was great and probably worth a topic in a sermon at some point. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to share, which is funny, did anyone listen to my podcast this week? Okay, you don't have to, it's not pressure. But so my podcast this week, we're on Acts 11, 1 through 18. Well, that was exactly the verses that the sermon was on. And I mean, Mark talked about it in his as well, but it was, so I started the podcast with the kind of the clock radio thing from Groundhog Day, if you've seen Groundhog Day, because that's what this week felt like. It was like last week I was talking about Acts, and then I got to the podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm talking about it again. And then last night, I'm like, this is Groundhog Day. I'm here again. So now you guys get to participate in my repetitive life. Okay, so today's sermon is called "A Tale of Two Cities." It's on Acts 11, 19 through 26, and Tyrene, as was said, was supposed to be talking today, and she did some wonderful work on this. And especially tying the wonderful novel by Charles Dickens to the Bible and how these two, not just two cities, Jerusalem and Antioch, but two books. And Tyrene's great. So, can you do it? Probably. But Tyrene's not here. So probably not, because you got me. This is what you got today. I am sorry. You all get to be Phil Connor today, and that's where the message is coming from. So I have some, as of about 11:30 last night when I started, I've got some inspired sermon points today on the reading, and I'm titling them that because if they're not, I tried, and that's what we get. So number one is get to the choppa. Okay, so right at the beginning of it, we're gonna get to that. It's like get out of town. The next one is it's Greek to me. The next one is going to be everything is awesome. And then the last one, there's 4, is Better Call Saul. Oh, wait, no, there's 5. I have 5. Oh, sorry, Better Call Saul. Wrong Saul. And then, who are you? All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're just going to go through it. This might be, I was saying before, I have no idea how long the sermon is because there was no practicing. And it might be really short. Might be. Okay. All right, let's get to the choppa. All right. Number 1, Acts 11:19. And it says, now those who were scattered because of the persecution that arose over Stephen traveled as far as Phoenicia and Cyprus and Antioch, speaking the word to no one except Jews. All right. By the way, Antioch's about 300 miles from Jerusalem. So we're talking especially, pre-motorized vehicles. People scattered a great distance with the persecution that came after Stephen. Also, what's interesting about this is a little bit of a step backwards in time from the previous 18 verses. Because Paul, right, in these verses, they didn't even call. I mean, he had already received kind of the word from Jesus and had kind of received the new name, but they're referring to him as Saul still. So Barnabas goes to meet Saul. So it's kind of an interesting, like this is all happening at the same time, so to speak. But what I wanted to point out here is that it was prudent for them to leave. They were going to get killed. And so it's not, I think sometimes there's a judgment of or maybe it's kind of the action hero mentality, is that we should stay and fight. And that's not what they did. Okay? They got out. They got out of Dodge. Okay? The persecution started, and they got out. And I think one of the things that keeps us in that mode is we develop this really finite view of where God can work or how he can work through us. And the reality is the beauty of what moved in the early church was they didn't stop what they were doing. They didn't throw their lives away, and they didn't stop preaching. They didn't hide. They just went somewhere else and did it. Okay? But this is exactly what Jesus did. Did Jesus throw his life away? No, over and over again he told people not to share because it wasn't his time. He wasn't afraid of death, but that if he was going to die, it was going to be purposeful. It was going to be meaningful. It was going to be within God's will. It was going to be within God's plan. And it's not about just standing and dying and becoming a martyr. Martyrdom is not the goal. Spreading the word is the goal. So they left, and they spread the word. Okay? Not out of fear, but out of prudence, out of responsibility. Okay? They lived with purpose, and they were engaged where they were. Okay, whether you're in Gig Harbor or Mongolia, right? You engage there for God. All right. See, some of this can go fast. It's Greek to me. All right. Next couple verses. And it says, but there were some of them, men of Cyprus and Cyrene, who on coming to Antioch spoke to the Hellenists. What are the Hellenists? Greeks. Okay. Spoke to the Hellenists also, preaching the Lord Jesus. And the hand of the Lord was with them, and a great number who believed turned to the Lord. Okay. I want you to, again, this is one of those things that I don't know for sure. It's just kind of the way I think about it. But why wouldn't they preach to the Greeks? Any thoughts? I mean, outside of the association thing, but we kind of addressed that last week a little. I think it's important to try to put yourself a little bit, and again, I don't know this to be true. This is just the way I think about it. To put yourself in the position of a Jew 2,500 years ago. Okay? Judaism is not a religion that anyone just opts into. It's the religion of a people. Right? If you're a Jew, you're a Jew. There's no like, I'm a Jew and a Methodist. Okay? I'm a Jew and a Hindu. I'm a Jew. Because if you didn't practice Judaism, you weren't a Jew. So there's no reason to preach Judaism to non-Jews because they're one and the same thing. They're not separate things. Does that make sense? I mean, when you start thinking that way, it is actually a significant leap, even for the early Christians. They weren't, as we found out today, they weren't even called Christians yet, because they're just Jews. It's a fairly significant leap to think, you know who I should talk to about this? Someone who doesn't have to believe this. I mean, it's an interesting to try to put yourself in there. So luckily we have some people in this verses that just were open to it and thought, you know what, I'll tell them. And so they did. But they didn't force it. So I thought about going to the grocery store today and picking up some like little mini cupcakes or cookies or something like that, and then offering you guys little cookies. If I had a cookie right now, and I offered it to you, how many of you would say yes? Yeah, I like cookies. How many of you say no? Yeah, I knew my wife would say no. Okay. Jenny. Anyone else would be like, yeah, I don't want a cookie. I'm not, yeah, okay, right. But no, take it. No. It's good. No, really, you want this. Okay? We do this with the gospel. Right? We determine who needs the cookie before we offer it, and then we force it on them. They just offered it to who wanted it. There's nobody in the group, and that's silly with a cookie. There's nobody in the group that God does not want to have the cookie. But he does not force the cookie on people who do not want the cookie. We're going to start calling the gospel the cookie. All right. They did not discriminate. They did not choose. Right? This goes back, boy, this is sounding familiar. It's almost like a scattering of seed. I don't know. Like they weren't discriminate about where it landed. I don't know. We should do a parable about that. They shared the living water with those who were thirsty. That was the only requirement. The only requirement was, are you thirsty? Well, I've got some water. Okay. Are you thirsty? No. Okay. You will be. All right. Everything is awesome. Everything is awesome. The report of this came to the ears of the church in Jerusalem, and they sent Barnabas to Antioch. When he came, he saw the grace of God, he was glad, and he exhorted them all to remain faithful to the Lord with steadfast purpose, for he was a good man, full of Holy Spirit and faith, and a great many people were added to the Lord. What did Barnabas do? He just came and he encouraged them. Okay, there's some of this that he checked out, but that's his name. I mean, his name is Barnabas, and did Peter, I think, cover this at one point? That's not his real name. Okay, that's his nickname, because and you can see this with really a lot of Jewish names. Bar, what does bar mean? Son of. Yeah. So, by the way, the man that they released instead of Jesus, Barabbas, Bar Abba. What does that mean? Son of father. It's the name you give to a bastard. You don't know who the dad is. Okay? So, like, that's who they released. That's who they released instead of Jesus. Bar, I don't know how to say it, Nabis, I don't know, whatever. That means son of encouragement. That was his, they're like, man, you know what? What a cool nickname. You're such an encourager, that's just what we're going to call you. And so who did they send? They sent the encourager. They sent the encourager to check it out. Okay? So he went, and he saw, and he told them, way to go. You guys are doing awesome. Stay faithful. Keep doing this. This is a good thing. See, I think we all need, in our lives, we need these people. My wife is an encourager. Not only does she find the cleaner for me, but she says, you can do it next time. Hebrews, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together. This is what we do. We come together on Sunday, we meet, we come together in small group and we meet, and we encourage each other. Right? As is a habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Better call Saul. So what's the next thing he does? He goes, so Barnabas went to Tarsus to look for Saul. So this is why it's relatively early on. This is maybe 6 or 7 years after Stephen is when this whole thing with Antioch happened. I mean, I don't know if we can know that exactly, but that's what people think. So he goes to Tarsus, and Saul had been hanging out in his hometown. And he went, and he had found him. He brought him to Antioch, and for a whole year, they met with the church and taught a great many people. And this is actually what I wanted to spend a little bit of time on today. Not a lot, but I do want to spend, because if there's a message in this scripture that resonated with me, and trying to pray about it and talk not only with my wife, but I actually talked with my son on the way home from baseball last night as well, because I'm scrambling to try to think about what to talk about today. And this just kept coming up, is we are called to interact, to have relationship with each other. That's who we are. That's who Christ is. That's who the Father is. That's who the Holy Spirit is. That's who we are. It's what, when we are going to have the Lord's Supper later, another word for that is communion. Right? It is relational. We are meant to interact with each other. So we are disciples. That's who we are. Disciples of whom? Jesus. We are Jesus' disciples. That's who we are. But we are also called to disciple. Correct? Right? That's the Great Commission. Go and make disciples. But we need to be discipled. You never have a time where you're like, got it. I think I'm good for the rest of my life now. Okay? It reminds me, I think I may have told this story before, but when we first had kids, no idea what I was doing. Thought I knew what I was doing, but no idea what I was doing. But we'd read books and stuff, right? Yeah. And we were, let's see, Riley, so I was like 27 and a half, right? So I was almost 28 when we had Riley, which meant I had almost everything of life figured out. Just, and we did the birthing classes. I mostly paid attention to that. I didn't, somewhat. And then Carrie read some books and told me about them. And then we got to was it the first day home? One of the things that I was expecting, it was a really cool message in the birthing class, is they're talking about whether, bottle fed or breastfed. And when they're like, one of the perks of breastfed babies is they process it better and their poop doesn't stink. Why would they say that? Okay. The other thing that they emphasized to us as we were leaving the hospital was, if you have any questions at all, call the hotline. So I'm changing Riley, one of the first times ever, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this stinks. Must be something wrong with my child, because she's breastfed, and I was told that poop's not supposed to stink. So I literally called the nurse hotline. And I can still remember the nurse on the other line laughing. Like, I remember this, like, she said, what can I do for you? Well, I'm changing my daughter, and her poop stinks. And there's just like a silence. There's it's like, and well, I was told it wasn't supposed to stink. There's something wrong with her, and she just like, yeah, like I don't know if I could hear the whiteboard squeaking, like she's writing this one down, like for everyone else. It's like, oh my gosh, this one's going in the books. Anyway, we need people who have walked through that, so you don't do dumb things like that. If I had just talked to somebody, if I had just talked with somebody, and I'm like, yeah, so I'm really looking forward to, her poop not stinking. They're like, no. Like, I don't know who told you that, but I've had kids. Like, you have to talk, you have to walk through life, walk through faith, walk with God, with people who have gone before you. Okay? And right now, our youngest is 17 and finishing up high school, and we're looking into this empty nest period. I'm looking forward to it. But I don't know what that's like. It's weird. I mean, we're going on 25 years of having kids. Of having, like last night. Why did I not start working on this till almost midnight? Because I was at a baseball tournament for my son. Hey, that's life for the last 25 years. And sometime in the next couple of years, before they come back, I've been told, sometime in the next couple of years, it will be different for the first time in 25 years. I don't know. What does that look like? If I didn't have people in my life that have walked through that, then I got to figure it out on my own. But it's also the reverse. When I talk to, or get the opportunity to talk to young marrieds, or people with young kids, and they're just like they're frazzled. I mean, I have the wisdom to tell them, oh no, it gets much worse. And that's helpful. That's why Carrie's the encourager. Okay. So in my life, I wanted to do really big things. That was what I wanted to do with my life. Okay. When I was young, my pastor kind of spoke prophecy over me. Really unusual, Lutheran brother in church, and he just came up to me and said, every time I see you, I was with my dad, every time I see you, he says, God just places the Bible verse that the harvest is plentiful and the workers are few. Okay. It didn't mean a lot to me at the time. Because, when you're young, you just think that's normal. Well, I probably did that to everybody that Sunday. Later on, it sunk in a little bit more. And and I think through what I wanted to do. My mom would ask me, what do you want to do when I grow up? And I'm like, I'm going to be president of the United States. And that wasn't like, I want to be a professional athlete. That was I want to be president of the United States. That's what I'm going to do. And so in middle school, I started taking Russian because, this is the 80s. That's what like, if you're going to be president, you speak Russian. And by my sophomore year in high school, I visited the Soviet Union and I was taking pre-law classes. And then I signed up for some internships with some senators and started college, my first year in college. And about 5 months in, I'm like, I do not want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. I hate these people. Like literally, like that was the reaction. Like I still kind of like the politics and stuff, but I really hate these people. Like these are not good people. And then it gets depressing. Like these are the people that are running the country. Okay, and so like sorry if that offends people, but that was my experience. That was and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Well, then I thought I'm going to do big things, and so what was great is that my God not only humbled me and disabused me of that idea, then he did that multiple times. I then became a teacher and did some leading in Young Life, and man, I'm going to save the world. I am going to, one convert, not enough. Hundreds of converts at a time, I'm going to save the world. That wasn't going to happen either. Fast forward a decade or so, and I think we were driving home from a little family camp or something, Carrie and I get the timeline mixed up, but one of the things that hit me was God's like, you know what, you want to change the world? Raise your kids. I gave you kids. And they're not yours. They're mine. And if you were to give your kids to someone else to raise because you couldn't be there for them, how serious would that be of a charge? I'm like, oh, that's big. So I got what I prayed for. And I had to reorient myself to God's definition. What does big mean to God? Which brings me to the parable of the sower. Okay, not really. Parable is talents. It is kind of related to the parable of the sower, but it's the parable of the talents. Do you guys know the parable of the talents? Okay, I'm going to read it to you real quick. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I do want to make sure that we know what we're talking about. For it will be like a man going on a journey who calls his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Interesting. Gives it according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received only 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing the 5 talents, saying, Master, you delivered me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered me 2 talents. Here I have made you 2 more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew you were a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Starts off more positive, ends kind of. What if the talents are people? See, one of the problems with this parable is we immediately it's a financial calculation, and what you want to do is, as a good manager of money, is not lose it. So there's some logic to burying money in the ground. It may not be the best thing you do for it, but it's better than losing it and risking it. But what if talents are people and not money? What if talents are people and not gifts and skills? They're just people. And if I entrust you with a person and you don't even invest in them enough to help them grow, but you just isolate them, how do you think God reacts to that? And if God entrusts you with 5 people, shouldn't you make 10 out of that? Stops being such a high bar. It starts being like, yeah, that's just kind of how relationship works. And what if the people that you invest in are producing a return 30, 60, 100-fold? I can't help myself. We're back to the parable of the sower. Okay? If you invest in people, they multiply. This is my Young Life leader when I was in high school. That's me. When I had hair. A guy's name is Dave Ringen. Dave's a great guy. Yeah, I can't say enough about him. Dave was in his 30s and was just hanging out with high school guys and doing Bible study and sharing Jesus. And it inspired me to be a Young Life leader as well. So I jumped in. By the end of high school, I was leading Young Life. Through college, I led Young Life. Young married, Carrie and I led Young Life and discipled young men and shared the gospel, and it was great. That's me in the bee costume. And those guys to the left were the first group of guys that I discipled. Okay, the one in the green shirt's a guy named Jeff Huber. Jeff Huber then became Young Life leader. Jeff is now the regional director for Young Life, east of the mountains, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. That is me a few years ago, on the right side, if you didn't notice. That's Jeff right next to me, my Young Life kid. Next to him is his Young Life kid. Next to him is his Young Life kid. Next to him is his Young Life kid. Jeff's only 3 years younger than me. Okay. But when I'm 19 and he's 16, that's huge. When I'm 22 and he's 19, that's big. Even when I'm 30 and he's 27, it's still big. Now I'm 53 and he's 50, not so big. But it multiplies. Even I didn't do any of this. I didn't do any of this. I did one. I invested in one. Joe invited me to play softball at One Hope. Or it wasn't One Hope, it was PLC then. God Squad. God Squad's playing today. God Squad's still going. I couldn't tell you how many people have played softball through the people around this church. Okay. Well, when I ended up at Fox Island, Kevin McClements, he's the top with the little kind of floppy hat. Kevin and I were going to PLC together, and then we ended up at Fox Island Alliance, and we're like, Fox Island used to have a softball team, and we started feeling guilty that we were still playing with One Hope. And we're like, we should probably start a softball team. So we did. And it was called the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Very good. I wanted it to be called the Pale Horsemen, but they didn't go with that. And a couple of those guys went to church with us. So this is like maybe 4 years after we started the Fox Island team. By that time, there's almost nobody on that team from the church. Not because that's a bad thing, but because that's what we set it up to be. How do you get people into community? Well, you go where they are, do what they want to do. By the way, that team is still going. We're not in it anymore. I'm going to play today after with a team called the Honey Badgers. And I'll be wearing a pink shirt. And that, the gal in the middle with the visor, she started that because she liked what we had done. And she wanted to start a team that invited and encouraged and didn't put a lot of pressure on people. Okay, it's a good thing. And relationships build, okay, and they multiply. This is at the Mysterics last, I think it was around Christmas, somewhere around there. Interesting, though, it doesn't have to be really out there. It can be just coaching a kid's team. Right? It's me saying yes to coaching Little League Baseball. I didn't want to. I'm not a baseball guy. I don't like baseball. My son knows that. I like watching him. When he's not playing, I don't watch the game. Like, why would I? Why? Why would I watch if he's not playing? I don't go down the street and just watch random youth baseball games. If he's not on the field, it's just a random youth baseball game. Like it's the only reason I'm there is to watch him. But it teaches you to get down at their level and to enter in with their lives. And who do you think's getting something out of this relationship? I am. Right? It's not a one-way thing. And the relationship I have with my wife, and then my oldest daughter went to, this is me trying to figure out how to take a selfie. She laughed at me for years about this picture, because I'm like, how do you do it? It is hanging out with my daughters. It is doing things that make me uncomfortable. This was, my third daughter loves drama, so I signed up to do a play with her. It was worth it. It was very uncomfortable, but it was worth it. Sometimes you got to make a fool out of yourself. My son liked Captain America, but he didn't want to wear the mask. And these relationships build, and your family gets bigger. So what if the talents are people? Then the response makes more sense. And this is not supposed to be coming down hard on you, but this is why the response in the parable makes sense, is because you wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scatter no seed. Who scatters the seed? We do. Who reaps the harvest? He does. So, are the people that you have been investing or entrusted with, are they multiplying? That's it. There's no bigger calling. There's nothing bigger that God asks you to do, ever. God does not care if your organization grows, if your profit margins grow. God cares if the kingdom grows. So who are you? In Antioch, the disciples were first called Christians. And this is for me the big change in the New Testament. Because it's not just a name change. It's a shift from an ethnicity to an alignment. Okay? It is, my identity is in who I follow, not in the nation that I belong to. My identity is not what political party or what happens, but who I am the disciple of. And at Antioch, they first called themselves Christians. Right? They're no longer Jews. They're disciples of Christ. And Christ did not needlessly run into death, but he lived purposefully. And he lived purposely, but he lived in a holy and set-apart way, with power and wisdom. Did not only preach Scripture, but he performed miracles. Oop, it's coming. Oh. And he walked closely with others. When he did miracles, almost always he did it one-on-one with someone. Almost always. And he discipled 12 closer than others, and he prepared them, and he did it relationally. And he regularly took time with the Father. Right? He was discipled as well, while always keeping in mind who he is. Right? Just like we should.